Hi everyone, welcome. In today's video, I'm going to talk about the science and theory behind every web application. By watching this video, you will actually learn how today's applications are scaled over time and how they are actually able to manage and handle thousands or even millions of users. Other than that, you will also learn about the fundamental and architecture of every full stack web applications. If you are a developer or if you are an individual who is actually willing to learn more about these kind of concepts, I highly recommend you to watch this video to the end. I can guarantee that you will gain insightful knowledge from this video. So let's start. Let's start by a simple scenario where a user opens his or her browser and type the URL of your web application inside their browser. What happens? The browser actually will send a request to the server running your application. And then the server is actually responsible to handle that request. In order to do so, we need a web server like Nginx to actually be running an app on our server. This web server is now responsible to receive the request and handle them properly. The Nginx or web server has actually two options once it receives a request. Option 1, if the Nginx detects that the browser asking for a static content like HTML file, CSS file, JS file, images or videos, it directly can actually read the content from that static file and deliver the information to the browser through chunks of bytes, and then actually the browser will serve the content to the user. But what happens if Nginx understands that this request actually requires more processing? Like imagine if requires some database querying, or imagine it requires some AI model to actually process this request more. In that case, Nginx actually forward the request to an appropriate backend service. Then the backend service further process the request and generate a response, and accordingly it sends the response back to the browser, and again a proper message or a proper response will be shown to the user via the browser. This is actually the simple scenario once you open a website or a web application, what happens behind the scene for you to see all the contents and having interaction with that application. Now, in order to more expand what I said and actually to better understand what is happening through web server, I'm going to use a clear analogy. Here we have two computers. Imagine the left side computer is actually my computer and the right side computer is my friend's computer. Imagine someday my friend comes to me and asks me, Mohammed, can you please send a photo of yourself to me? What I will do? I will actually look for folders inside my computers, and inside one of the folders, for example, like imagine in the media folder, I will find an image of myself. I will pick it and, for example, send that file to my friend, and then my friend in his or her computer will download this file and actually open it on his or her computer. This is actually like serving a static file. What happened actually here? I acted like Nginx. I actually picked the proper static content, send it to my friend, and then my friend is actually able to open it and see the content of that. This is the actually option one of Nginx or web server. But imagine someday my friend comes to me and say to me that, Muhammad, I have an image, but I want you to actually remove the background of my image, and then actually I want you to send that edited image to me. What will happen? In that case, I need to further process an image file. What happens? I open the image inside my computer using an application like, for example, Photoshop. Okay, and by Photoshop I do the required modification. I will remove the background from the image. I will save it somewhere inside my computer, and then I will share this actually further processed file to my friend, and then my friend is able to actually see the processed image. So in this case, actually, I acted like the reverse proxy function of Nginx. You know why? Because I actually further processed the file. I opened another program like Photoshop. Behind the scene, this Photoshop is like backend service, like API service. Further process the request, and then the file is gonna be sent to my friend. This is the option 2 or the function 2 of Nginx or web server when we talk about acting as a reverse proxy. So now let's talk how this data transfer actually happens over web. So far, for example, I just use an analogy how I transfer files between myself and my friend. Now imagine this is a user opening the browser. What happens? They send request to Nginx. Nginx here will actually decide if it's like a static content to be served, directly fetch the static content, actually read the content of that static file, and deliver information directly to the browser. Like the option 1, once I immediately fetch my image and send it to my friend's computer. But option 2, once Nginx detects that it requires further process, it sends it to appropriate backend service like me. Remember, once I understood that I need to remove the background of an image, I actually understood that a good application for it is Photoshop. I picked the appropriate application, did further process, and once the generated file was ready, I sent it to my friend. Here, the same thing happened. Nginx will call the appropriate backend. The appropriate backend service will do the further processing, and once the actually appropriate result is generated and ready, backend service directly will send it to the user's browser or to the client side. This is actually how the data is gonna be transferred over web. So now let's consider a more real world scenario. Once I'm running an application over the web, as you expect, there can be multiple requests coming to my web server simultaneously. Why? For example, imagine at the same time that user 1 is actually visiting my website or my web app, user 2, user 3, user 4, other users are also opening their browsers and actually search my URL and open my web page or my web application. So it means that user 1, user 2, user 3, user 4, all of them send concurrent requests to actually my web server, which is Nginx, and Nginx actually now is responsible to handle all of these concurrent requests. So what happens here and how it can actually be managed? One option is actually in queuing the tasks. Like for example, imagine once you go to a supermarket and there are a lot of, for example, customers, you need to stay in a queue until, for example, it's your turn to pay, for example, for your purchases. The same thing exactly happens here. If, for example, the request from user 1 comes and then from user 2 needs to wait the request for user 1 to be completed. I mean, imagine the customer 1 actually complete the payments of his or her purchase, and then it's gonna be 10 for the second customer. Here it's gonna be 10 for the second user. This is one option. But as you can expect, in queuing can be actually time consuming once the number of users increase. For example, if you are in a supermarket, it's 100, 200, for example, customers, what will happen? You need to actually stay in a long queue. Exactly the same thing happens here. Thousands of users sending simultaneous requests. I have to wait for other actually request to be processed until it's my turn. So do we have any better options? Yes, absolutely we do have. We have options where we can actually handle some requests simultaneously and concurrently. How this can actually happen? There are different options. One option is like multi-processing. In order to actually better explain to you multiprocessing, let's actually come back to our analogy. Imagine, for example, again, this is my computer. I have a lot of files and folders, a lot of too many images inside my computers, okay? And in this time, instead of one of my friends coming to me, I have 100 of my friends coming to me that, Mohammed, for example, I need to actually pick this image from your computer. Handling 100 images by me alone is gonna be very difficult. What I can do in that way, I can actually hire some, for example, employees for myself, and I will actually to each of the employees, I will actually give them a machine, give them a computer, okay? And in each employee's computer, I will actually copy or transfer some files or some images from my computer to their computer. For example, this is all the files inside my computer. These folders with all its files is gonna be shared, for example, to this employee 1, for example. And this time also I will actually share this folder with all its file to the, for example, employee 2. So whenever a user comes to me and says to me that, for example, I need a file, for example, just img1, I know that, for example, employee 1 is responsible to actually handle these images. I will talk with my employee 1 and say that, okay, please share this file to this friend. This employee does the job. And if somebody else comes to me and, for example, I'm looking for img2, I will talk with my employee 2 and say that you are responsible for this file. And that in that case, if both of my friends come to me at the same time and tell me, one of them say to me that I need img1 and one of them say to me that I need img2, you see that both of my employees can work in parallel and simultaneously, and actually without any pause. They can actually share the appropriate content to the appropriate friend of mine. So exactly the same thing can happen in web applications. So what happens, instead of employees, we actually can say that we occupy some spaces of RAM called as a worker. Instead of employee 1 and employee 2, I can say that I have worker 1 and worker 2. Okay, and instead of, for example, searching through the whole storage of my web server, I will actually share some files and contents and applications with worker 1 and share some of them with worker 2. Once a request comes to me, to Nginx, Nginx detects that it needs to be passed, it needs to be actually handled by worker 1 or it needs to be handled by worker 2. Then actually the request goes to the appropriate worker, and now as you see, workers can work simultaneously. Here with multiprocessing, as you see in our analogy, we need, for example, some more resources. I need employees, I need new computers for each employee. The same thing happens for a full stack web application. I need more resources for each actually worker. I need some part of my RAMs to be dedicated, some part of my RAMs will be consumed actually. So this is actually about multiprocessing. I hope that with this analogy you could get a better understanding of what I mean by multiprocessing. But another option is multi-threading. Multi-threading is different from multiprocessing. How it actually differs. This time, imagine me, instead of, for example, having employee 1, employee 2, employee 3, and each of those having their own specific system with some files and folders, this time I am having again multiple employees, but I'm saying today that all of you only get access to my main computer. Okay, only get access to my computer, you don't have your own computer, and search throughout the files and folders inside my computer, then find the appropriate file and pass it to my friend. In here, in full stack web application, I can use the term agent. For example, I can say that in multi-threading, each, for example, agent is like an employee. I'm saying that, okay, agent 1 or thread 1, I can use the term agent or the term thread. Thread 1, you actually are responsible to handle the request from user 1. Thread 2, you are actually responsible to handle the request from actually user 2. But remember, in that case, I don't actually dedicate a specific part of my RAM to each of these agents. All of them, all of these threads, all of these agents, all of these employees are actually working on the same machine. So multi-threading does not actually occupy a specified part of my RAM. This is the difference between multi-threading and multi-processing. I hope that you got a better understanding now and what the main difference is between multiprocessing and multi-threading. So now that we've got actually covered enough about multiprocessing and multi-threading, let's talk about the actual full stack workflow. Now I believe you can better understand what happens behind the scene. Once a request from the browser comes to my server, here actually my web server or Nginx is responsible to take that request. But remember again, I can have multiple requests coming simultaneously. So this time Nginx actually uses multiprocessing. Okay, it has actually its worker 1, worker 2, worker 3, worker 4. Depending on our configuration, it can have multiple workers. Okay, so then Nginx acts as a load balancer. What I mean by load balancer, load balancer plays the role that I had, for example, to say that, okay, employee 1, this is your responsibility to handle this request. Employee 2, this is your responsibility to handle this request. Load balancer does the exact job. Say that, for example, okay, for example, worker 1, this is your responsibility to handle this request. Worker 2, this is your responsibility to handle this request. Load acts as a load balancer, then actually forwards the request to the appropriate worker. The Nginx worker now processes the request. If it detects that it's only a static file, for example, to be delivered, then it directly send the static file to the actually to the browser of the user. But if it detects it requires further process, again, this Nginx worker will forward the request to actually an appropriate backend service. Okay, now imagine worker 1, worker 2, worker 3, worker 4 can send simultaneous requests to a backend service. Again, what we need to do here? Again, here we need to be able to have a way to handle multiple requests by the backend service. So again, my backend service can actually do multi-processing plus multi-threading in order to better manage simultaneous connections coming to the backend. So this is the actual workflow. You see, Nginx receives the request, sends to appropriate worker. The worker actually, if it's a static file, will read it, deliver it to the user. If it's for example and requires further process, it send it to the appropriate backend service. The backend service again use multi-threading, multi-processing in order to better manage simultaneous connections. So okay, now imagine we use this approach, multi-processing, multi-threading, but still imagine it's like, for example, adding more employees. Imagine in our analogy, I have added 10 employees, but for example, I have an office that it has, for example, 10 rooms, and I have added 10 employees. So what happens if I see the volume of my work is still too much, and there are a lot of tasks still in queue? So what I need to do in that, what I can do, I can actually create a branch for myself, build a new branch of my business, and adding, for example, 10 more employees to that branch. We call this as horizontal scaling in the web application development. But what I mean by that is actually, imagine there are still too many tasks, too many requests in queue by implementing multi-processing and multi-threading. So I need to rent more servers. So this time, instead of having only one web server, I can have 2, 3, 4, even more, multiple web servers that actually these are like a branch of my business, a branch of my actually web server. So this time, browser, instead of sending the request to the directly to a web server, browsers or users will send the request to a load balancer. Again, load balancer here plays the critical role to distribute the request across different nodes. In our analogy, for example, the main branch, just imagine there is a main branch. That main branch is actually responsible to share tasks across different branches of my business. You know, load balancer plays the exact same role. Okay, load balancer receives the request, send it to the proper actually web server or worker and or replica, and then actually the request is gonna be handled in that web server and a response is gonna be generated. This is called as horizontal scaling. I also like to talk about vertical scaling. Imagine in the once I started this topic, I told that imagine, for example, my office has 10 rooms and I have 10 employees. I have no capacity for my employees. What if, for example, uh, I actually in the same office I talk with my neighbor and say that okay, I actually want to purchase your space. I want to actually to have more rooms inside the same office, for example, to increase it to 15, 20 rooms. In that case, is exactly called as vertical scaling. Vertical scaling meaning that I don't rent more web server. I have the same web server, but instead I can actually increase the CPU, the RAM, the storage, the memory of my system. This is called vertical scaling, you know, and this analogy is actually called horizontal scaling. So now that we've got covered enough about how to make application scalable, I also like to talk about content delivery networks or CDNs. What actually CDNs are? So imagine, for example, uh, I have my web servers are located, for example, in North America. One, for example, in US, one in Canada. You know, I have all across North America. A user from Japan wants to visit my website. What happens? So, because the location is too far from between Japan and, for example, US, because the distance is too far, it takes more time for the content to be delivered from my web server to actually to a user in Japan. So in that case, I can use CDNs. CDNs are actually, I can say that they are, for example, global stations with an optimized routing system. So CDNs are having stations across the globe, you know, for example, near Japan, near US, near Canada, near Europe. They have actually across the world, they have different stations. For example, this is a station 1, a station 2, a station 3, and all of these stations can be connected together. I mean, they can share information together. So instead of, for example, a user in Japan sends actually the request to, for example, my web server in, for example, United States, I will send the request to actually this station, CDN station close to Japan. This actually CDN fetches the static file, for example, from the actual web server and cache it in in its own system. And since, for example, it's been cached, actually the it can actually much faster deliver the content, the static content, to the user in Japan. In that way they can actually handle the location, actually the issue with location, once the distance is too far between the user and the web server. This is one thing. The second thing about CDN is that other than this ability to actually cache files. Also, they have optimized routing systems and routing passes. So definitely they can actually, even if your files are not cached, you don't like, for example, to cache them, still they have this ability to deliver the content faster rather than just considering your web server as a content delivery for your web application. This is also about CDNs. So now that we've covered enough about how actually full stack web applications can get better performance, I like us to actually conclude things together. The first thing is that we said that a web server handles incoming traffic and requests directed to the server running our application. Yeah, I told that, for example, once a request comes to our application, Nginx will actually handle that request. And then it says that a static files can be served directly using web servers. Yeah, that's exactly what we covered. We said that if it's a static file, Nginx immediately can serve that. It's gonna be through data streaming. Nginx fetches the data, actually reads the content of the file, and it actually delivers through chunks of bytes to the actually uh, user's browser. Then this is that to process dynamic requests like Photoshop, imagine that analogy, the web server acts as a reverse proxy, forwarding requests to the appropriate backend service. The backend then generates and sends the proper response to the client. To enhance performance and handle multiple requests simultaneously, we use multiprocessing or multithreading or combinations of both. Then we said that Nginx utilizes multiprocessing to efficiently handle concurrent requests. Just remember that Nginx as a web server uses multiprocessing. It's not using multithreading. Backend services like Django ASCII support both multiprocessing and multithreading. I showed you how it actually works, the whole full stack workflow. And remember one thing very important, I saw that many developers use the Django development mode in their production environment. Django development mode, which is not actually using ASCII, it's not at all good for multi-threading or multiple. It's only single threaded, and it cannot handle multiple requests. So your configuration for the Django needs to be different from the one you have in the development. Remember that in order to be able to handle multiple requests simultaneously. When the number of requests exceeds the capacity of the web server or backend service, task queuing occurs. If the queue grows too large, some requests may time out or be rejected. Yeah, we told that if there are a lot of requests and we have only one web server, for example, or we have a number of web servers to handle those requests, but still the task queue is a lot, so I need to scale my application, or I need to horizontally scale it or to vertically scale it depending on the scenario. Otherwise, there is gonna be some issues and maybe some tasks actually be rejected, or actually the user need to wait a lot. To improve scalability and performance, when too many tasks are queued, we can horizontally scale our application. That's what I said. Or even vertically, we can scale. Depending on the scenario, we need to actually adopt the best decision. With horizontal scaling, external load balancers distribute tasks efficiently across multiple nodes. I showed you, for example, how load balancers actually try to distribute the task across different replicas, different workers. To enhance performance for users from the server, CDNs cache and serve static content closer to users, reducing latency for actually repeated requests. So thank you so much for watching. If you are interested in learning more about actually a scalable development and learning more about the theory behind web applications, so please let me know so I can actually share more videos in that matter. And also, if you have any questions from my explanations in this video, feel free to ask me. I will definitely be happy to be able to help you. Thank you so much and see you in the next video.